Long before the pyramids pierced the Egyptian sky, before Mesopotamia's ziggurats touched the heavens, there were civilizations older than history itself. Cities built on water, temples carved from stone heavier than imagination, kingdoms that vanished without a trace, leaving only whispers beneath sand, sea, and forest. What were these people capable of? How did they shape the world, and why were they lost to time? Tonight, we journey across continents and millennia, from the sunken city of Dwarka to the floating labyrinth of Nanmadol, from the Andean megaliths of Pumapunku to the forgotten temples of Nubia, to uncover the mysteries of humanity's vanished past. The answers may change everything we thought we knew about civilization. Beneath layers of soil and silence, evidence of builders, priests, and astronomers who shaped stone long before written words. For centuries, we believed civilization began around 3500 BCE with Sumer, that everything before that was primitive. But recent discoveries have shattered that timeline. And it all began with a mound of earth in southeastern Turkey. In 1994, a German archaeologist named Klaus Schmidt, working with the German Archaeological Institute and the Schindlerfa Museum, began excavations at a site locals called Göbekli Tepe, the Potbelly Hill. At first glance, it seemed like hundreds of other mounds scattered across the Anatolian plateau, piles of rock and debris left by ancient settlements. But within weeks, Schmidt realized he had stumbled upon something that defied the entire story of human civilization. Buried beneath layers of sediment were massive T-shaped limestone pillars, some towering over 5.5 meters, 18 feet high, and weighing up to 20 tons each. They were carved with intricate reliefs: lions, vultures, scorpions, snakes, boars, animals of a world long gone. And the carbon dating results stunned the world. 11,600 years old, around 9600 BCE. That's 7,000 years before Stonehenge and 6,000 years before the pyramids of Giza. According to everything historians thought they knew, this should have been impossible. The end of the last ice age had only just passed. Humanity, we were told, still lived as nomadic hunter-gatherers, with no agriculture, no cities, no organized religion. But Göbekli Tepe stood as proof of complex spiritual and social organization, a structure that required planning, labor division, and architectural precision. Dr. Schmidt described it in his 2011 publication, Göbekli Tepe, a Stone Age Sanctuary in Southeastern Anatolia, published by the German Archaeological Institute, as the world's first cathedral. The pillars were arranged in circular enclosures. Enclosure D, the most famous, measured nearly 20 meters in diameter. At its center stood two larger T-shaped monoliths, facing one another, almost like deities in silent dialogue. Each pillar bore symbols: foxes leaping across the stone, birds carrying heads, serpents coiling upward, imagery scholars still debate today. Some archaeologists interpret them as totemic representations, perhaps guardians or ancestral spirits. Others, like Dr. Jens Nottroff of the German Archaeological Institute, suggest they form part of a broader system of Neolithic cosmology, a symbolic bridge between earth and sky. To raise pillars of that size without metal tools, beasts of burden, or the wheel required genius. The limestone was quarried from the surrounding hillside, carved using flint tools, and hauled hundreds of meters using manpower alone. Experimental archaeology estimates 500 people could have erected a single enclosure, each project taking years of effort. That implies food storage, social cooperation, leadership, and ritual motivation, all supposedly absent from hunter-gatherer societies. But at Göbekli Tepe, those primitive people were already building monuments of staggering complexity. Radiocarbon data from Schmidt's team, verified in Science Magazine Volume 299, 2003, confirmed the earliest layers date to between 9600 and 8800 BCE, with later phases continuing for nearly 1500 years. Even more mysterious, around 8000 BCE, the entire site was intentionally buried. Layer upon layer of debris covered the pillars, as if its builders wanted to protect or conceal their creation. When Göbekli Tepe was active, the climate of the Fertile Crescent was shifting. The last glacial period had ended, and lush grassland spread across what's now southeastern Turkey. Nearby communities like Navali Chori and Chayonu were beginning to experiment with early farming. Yet Göbekli Tepe predates those villages. This suggests religion, or shared spiritual purpose, may have come before agriculture, not after. As Professor Ian Hodder of Stanford University observed in a 2018 lecture, it may not be that agriculture allowed for temples, but that temples created the social glue that made agriculture possible. In other words, humans might have built Göbekli Tepe not because they had civilization, but to create it. The carvings are a language we still cannot read. Some scholars, like Dr. Trevor Watkins of the University of Edinburgh, propose the imagery encodes cosmological myths: life, death, rebirth. One relief shows a headless man with an erect phallus, surrounded by dangerous animals. Interpretations range from initiation rituals to symbolic depictions of cosmic death and renewal. Another stone bears what some see as an abstract map of the night sky, with vultures and scorpions aligning roughly with constellations visible around 10,000 BCE. This theory, popularized by Martin B. Sweatman and Dimitrios Sakritsis in their 2017 paper, Mediterranean Archaeology and Archaeometry Journal, suggests the carvings record a catastrophic comet impact that marked the beginning of the Younger Dryas, a sudden cooling period around 10,800 BCE. Not everyone agrees, but the possibility adds weight to an emerging narrative that Göbekli Tepe's builders carried memories of cataclysm and encoded them in stone. For decades, archaeologists assumed organized religion evolved after stable settlements, a byproduct of cities needing moral order. But Göbekli Tepe flips that logic. Here, we find no evidence of permanent dwellings, no hearths, no agriculture. Instead, only sacred architecture. It appears that nomadic groups gathered seasonally to build, worship, and feast, uniting around shared myths. The labor itself may have been part of the ritual. Animal bones found at the site, gazelle, auroch, wild boar, show signs of large communal feasting, possibly sacrifices. According to zooarchaeologist Joris Peters, University of Munich, these were events of symbolic consumption, acts of devotion as much as nourishment. When seen this way, Göbekli Tepe becomes the missing link between the wandering bands of prehistory and the organized city-states that followed millennia later. By around 8000 BCE, construction stopped. The enclosures were filled deliberately with debris, crushed limestone, broken tools, and animal bones. Dr. Schmidt theorized this was a ritual burial, a deliberate act of closure. Perhaps the beliefs that built Göbekli Tepe evolved, or the society itself moved on. When modern farmers first discovered the hill, they had no idea a Stone Age cathedral lay beneath their feet. It would remain hidden for nearly 10,000 years, until the mid-1990s when radar scans and excavations exposed its secrets once more. Göbekli Tepe's age aligned suspiciously close to the Younger Dryas boundary, when Earth underwent dramatic climate change, sudden floods, melting ice, and shifting coastlines. Archaeologist Graham Hancock, though controversial, argues this may not be a coincidence. In his 2015 book, Magicians of the Gods, he suggests Göbekli Tepe could be the work of survivors from an earlier lost civilization, preserving knowledge through the chaos. Mainstream archaeology remains cautious. The majority view, expressed by Dr. Lee Clare of the German Archaeological Institute, is that it represents the pinnacle of local hunter-gatherer innovation, not a remnant of Atlantis, but proof of how rapidly human ingenuity can evolve. Either way, both sides agree. Göbekli Tepe forces us to rethink everything we thought we knew about the origins of civilization. Standing amid those ancient pillars, Tay, you can feel something almost alive. The carvings are not random art. They are memory made solid. Each symbol, each animal frozen in motion, whispers a message across 12 millennia. It tells us that even in the deep past, humans sought meaning beyond survival. They watched the heavens, feared the wild, honored the dead, and dreamed of gods. Göbekli Tepe is not just the world's first temple. It is the first evidence of what makes us human, our desire to give shape to mystery. Göbekli Tepe stood for centuries, then was buried, as if to guard a secret. But across the world, other monuments tell the same story. Temples built before time, cities swallowed by the sea, myths that remember what history forgot. Our next journey takes us far from Turkey's dry plains to the western coast of India, where waves conceal the ruins of another enigma. A city once thought to exist only in legend until divers found its streets beneath the ocean.
Off the coast of modern-day Gujarat, where the Gulf of Khambat meets the Arabian Sea, the waters hide an ancient legend. Hindu texts speak of Dwarka, the gateway to the gods. For centuries, scholars treated it as myth, a luminous city said to have been built by Lord Krishna only to sink beneath the sea when his earthly life ended. But in the late 20th century, sonar scanners began to whisper a different story, a story that forced archaeologists to ask, was the myth of Dwarka a memory of something real? The city of Dwarka first appears in the Mahabharata and the Harivamsa Purana, composed between 400 BCE and 400 CE, though the oral traditions are far older. The texts describe a shining coastal capital with 72 pillared palaces of gold, silver, and jewels, connected by causeways and harbors. When Krishna departed the mortal world, the story says, the sea advanced and swallowed the city. For millennia, that line was dismissed as poetic allegory, until explorers found something unusual on the seabed. In 1963, the Marine Archaeology Center of the Archaeological Survey of India, ASI, began surveying Gujarat's coastal shelf. Divers recovered ancient pottery fragments, anchors, and stone blocks near Bet Dwarka Island, about 30 kilometers off the mainland temple town that bears the same name. The real breakthrough came in the 1980s when Dr. S.R. Rao, a senior ASI archaeologist who had previously excavated the Indus Valley site of Lothal, led systematic dives around Dwarka's modern harbor. His team discovered massive stone walls, jetties, and rectangular foundations at depths of 3 to 10 meters. In 1988, Rao published his findings in Marine Archaeology in India, Volume 1, Number 1, asserting that the submerged ruins represented the earliest known port city of the Indian subcontinent, dating between 1500 and 1700 BCE. But later expeditions hinted it could be even older. At the dawn of the new millennium, in 2001, scientists from India's National Institute of Ocean Technology, NIOT, deployed side-scan sonar in the Gulf of Khambat, roughly 20 kilometers from the coast. The sonar images revealed a complex grid of geometric structures spread across nearly 9 square kilometers, rectilinear blocks, a suspected street layout, and possible tank-like depressions. Samples retrieved by marine dredging were sent for analysis to the National Geophysical Research Institute in Hyderabad. Among the finds, a piece of carbonized wood dated by the National Geophysical Research Laboratory to 7,190 plus or minus 130 years BP, approximately 5,200 BCE, using accelerator mass spectrometry. Pottery shards and microlithic tools consistent with early Neolithic technology. If the association of these artifacts with the structures is valid, then the site predates the Harappan civilization by nearly 2,000 years, placing it among the world's earliest urban experiments. Not everyone accepted those dates. Marine archaeologist Dr. Jane McIntosh of Cambridge noted in A Peaceful Realm, The Rise and Fall of the Indus Valley Civilization, 2001, that sediment movement in the Gulf of Kambat is extremely strong. Artifacts could have been displaced from multiple eras. Similarly, Dr. Jonathan Mark Kenware, University of Wisconsin-Madison, argued that without in situ stratigraphic control, linking carbon samples to the architectural grid is speculative. Still, even conservative critics agree the sonar patterns merit further study. In 2004, the NIOT and ASI jointly confirmed the presence of man-made features and announced plans for 3D mapping using sub-bottom profilers. The work continues intermittently today, although poor visibility and strong currents make detailed excavation extremely difficult. Divers report long rows of cut stone blocks, some measuring over 2 by 1 meters, arranged in right-angled patterns. Others form what appears to be a harbor wall or jetty, with L-shaped extensions resembling docks. If these are indeed remnants of ancient urban planning, they echo the sophisticated water management seen later at Lothal, 2400 BCE, a known Harappan port about 130 kilometers away. Ceramic fragments recovered by Rao's team display a distinctive red ware style with black painted designs, similar to those from late Harappan levels but fired at lower temperatures. Perhaps a transitional culture between the Mesolithic and Bronze Age phases. Geological cores from the Gulf of Kambat analyzed by Dr. Rajiv Nigam, National Institute of Oceanography, Goa, 2002, reveal that around 7,000 to 6,000 BCE, global sea levels were 30 to 40 meters lower than today. That means large portions of the continental shelf, now underwater, were once habitable plains traversed by the ancient Saraswati-Indus River system. When post-glacial melting accelerated, the sea gradually inundated these low-lying regions. Dwarka, if located on that shelf, could indeed have been submerged between 6,000 and 3,000 BCE, matching both geological data and India's flood myths. The Mahabharata describes Krishna warning his followers that the sea would reclaim the land. This city will no longer exist. It shall be the play of waves and currents. To believers, the underwater ruins are that prophecy made real. To historians, they may represent a cultural memory of Holocene sea level rise, one of the most dramatic environmental shifts humans ever experienced. Dr. Nayanjot Lahiri in Finding Forgotten Cities, 2005, notes that Indian myths often encode genuine geological events. Dwarka's drowning could echo coastal flooding remembered across generations. On shore, the modern Dwarkadish temple stands as a spiritual descendant of the lost city. Beneath it, excavations have revealed sequential habitations from the 2nd millennium BCE through the early Common Era. Layers of pottery, beads, and shell artifacts showing continuous ritual significance. The persistence of worship across thousands of years suggests an unbroken sacred geography. Even as the shoreline shifted, the faith anchored itself to the same coordinates. The sea may have taken the city, but not its spirit. Collaborations with the Birbal Sahni Paleosciences Institute aim to refine sediment dating using optically stimulated illuminescence, OSL, which can determine when quartz grains were last exposed to sunlight, a crucial method for sites lacking organic material. If confirmed, Dwarka would represent one of the earliest known maritime urban centers, a missing link between inland Harappan trade networks and later Indo-Arab seafaring traditions. Critics remind us that extraordinary dates like 5200 BCE rely on context that's difficult to prove underwater. Supporters countered that repeated sonar mapping shows unmistakably human geometry. Between them lies a truth both camps acknowledge. The Indian coastline holds layers of history that global archaeology has barely touched. As sea levels continue to rise today, those archives are vanishing faster than we can read them. Across the world, other ruins echo Dwarka's fate. In Japan, the Yonaguni Monument lies beneath the East China Sea. In Egypt, the harbor of Heraklion sleeps under the Mediterranean. Each tells the same story: human settlements succumbing to the relentless rhythm of tides and time. When viewed together, these submerged cities map not myth but memory, a record of humanity's long negotiation with a changing planet. Perhaps the legend of Dwarka endures because it speaks to something timeless: the fear that even our greatest works are impermanent. Temples rise, oceans claim them. Yet through story and stone, we reach back across millennia, rebuilding in imagination what the sea erased. In every wave, wrote the 12th century poet Jayadeva, the Lord still dwells. Maybe that is why pilgrims still journey to Dwarka, to stand where faith and archaeology meet, where myth breathes through the salt air. If Göbekli Tepe rewrote the origins of civilization and Dwarka blurred the boundary between myth and memory, the next mystery challenges geography itself. Thousands of kilometers east, scattered across the Pacific, lies a city built not on land but on the sea, a labyrinth of basalt towers resting upon coral reefs. A civilization that defies the tides and, like the others, vanished into legend. Far from the coasts of India, beyond the vast expanse of the Pacific Ocean, lies an island chain shrouded in mystery. Ponte, part of the Federated States of Micronesia. Hidden among its palm-lined lagoons and volcanic peaks rests a place so extraordinary that early European explorers refused to believe it could exist. Nan Madol, a city built on water, a labyrinth of stone, and, for centuries, a kingdom lost to time. Western records of Nan Madol begin in the late 1800s, when German ethnographer Hermann W. Müller and others charted the Caroline Islands. They described a series of artificial islands connected by canals, built entirely of stone, floating like a mirage amid the lagoons. Early sketches and maps from the 1880s to 1990s show the vast scale of the city, nearly 100 artificial islets covering more than 0.7 square kilometers, each reinforced with towering basalt walls. The locals, speaking in the Pohnpian language, called it Nan Madol, meaning spaces between, a reference to the network of canals that separate the stone platforms. According to local lore, the city was founded by twin sorcerers, Olosopa and Olosipa, who brought their magical powers from a distant land. Legends tell of stones that floated across the lagoon, guided by incantations, and of an entire dynasty, the Saudelur, whose rulers wielded absolute authority from the stone palaces. Early anthropologist H.E. Maud, in Of Islands and Men, Studies in Pacific Anthropology, 1968, noted that oral tradition preserves a memory of social stratification, ritual power, and ceremonial architecture, hinting at a complex society that once rivaled any mainland kingdom. What makes Nan Madol so enigmatic is its construction. The city is built almost entirely from massive basalt logs, some weighing up to 50 tons. These stones were quarried from 10 kilometers away, on the island of Kapingamarangi, and transported across coral reefs and lagoons without modern machinery. Archaeologists like D.J. Rubin, in Pacific Science 1987, described the feat as a monumental human achievement, rivaling megalithic constructions anywhere in the world. The canals, now partially silted, allowed small canoes to navigate the city. Each artificial islet served a specific purpose: temples, elite residences, tombs, and ceremonial spaces. The walls were built using a dry stone technique, stacking basalt columns with precision, allowing them to withstand centuries of tropical storms and tidal fluctuations. The ingenuity raises an obvious question. How did a relatively small population undertake such a massive engineering project without written records, wheels, or draft animals? Some scholars speculate that ritualized labor and strong hierarchical organization under the Saudelur dynasty made it possible. Others suggest that floating stones or rafts could have been employed, though no definitive evidence survives. Carbon dating of charcoal and coral samples places the initial construction of Nanmadol around 1200 CE, continuing into the 17th century, roughly 500 years of human effort. Dr. Hiroshi Matsuda of University of Tokyo, 1993, notes that the earliest structures correspond with the rise of the Saudelur rulers, who centralize power and impose strict social order. Artifacts found within the city include pottery, shell tools, beads, and ornaments, evidence of trade networks extending across Micronesia and possibly into Polynesia and Southeast Asia. Nanmadol was not a static settlement. It evolved, expanded, and adapted over centuries, reflecting both environmental challenges and shifts in political power. The Saudelur rulers held absolute authority, their power reinforced by the city's architecture. Each islet served as both a residence and a ceremonial space. Temples housed sacred relics, while tombs held members of the ruling family. Some walls feature intricate basalt carvings, though erosion has erased most detail. Ethnographer E. H. Bryan, Jr., 1933, The Island Civilization of Micronesia, recorded that the rulers maintained strict control over food, labor, and religious practice. Violations of custom were met with severe punishment, reinforcing a hierarchy that endured for centuries. By the 17th century, the Saudelur dynasty fell, replaced by the Nanmarki chieftains, who dismantled much of the centralized power. Nanmadol gradually declined, its canals silted, and its artificial islands abandoned. Yet the city did not vanish entirely. Even centuries later, the scale and sophistication of the ruins left European explorers awestruck. Some described it as the Venice of the Pacific, a floating city of stone lost in the lagoon mist. Modern archaeology began in earnest in the 1930s, led by C.W. Chouette and later H.E. Maud. Systematic surveys mapped the canals, measured basalt walls, and collected artifacts. In the 1980s and 1990s, Japanese and Micronesian teams used aerial photography, sonar mapping, and radiocarbon dating to confirm the scale and chronology. Recent studies 2015-2020 by the University of Guam and the Micronesian Maritime Institute employ 3D laser scanning and GIS mapping, revealing previously unknown channels and platforms, evidence that Nanmadol may have been even larger than previously thought. Nanmadol is more than a marvel of engineering. It is a window into a lost Pacific culture, illustrating how humans can adapt to extreme geography, organize labor, and create enduring ceremonial architecture. The canals symbolize more than transport. They reflect the social and spiritual order, a city built on water where control of movement reinforced hierarchy, ritual, and governance. Ethnographer William W. Fitzhugh, Smithsonian Institution, 1992, notes that the city's layout encodes power, cosmology, and ritual practices in stone, a silent language of governance and belief. How did such a society arise on a small island, far from the river valleys that gave rise to most ancient civilizations? Some researchers suggest Nanmadol is part of a broader pattern of maritime city building, comparable to Harappan ports like Lothal, or even coastal settlements in Southeast Asia. Others, fascinated by the scale and precision of the basalt placement, speculate about lost technological knowledge transmitted orally, through ritual, and through generations of labor. As with Göbekli Tepe and Dwarka, Nanmadol challenges our assumptions. Civilization need not emerge in fertile river valleys alone. It can flourish wherever humans impose structure, order, and vision.
Nanmadol endures as a testament to human ingenuity, ambition, and the will to shape the environment. But it also reminds us of impermanence. Rising tides, erosion, and changing ecosystems gradually reclaimed the city. The Saudelur rulers vanished, their monuments partially buried under coral and water. What survives today is not only stone and mortar, but memory. Myths preserved in song, story, and oral tradition. From the tropical waters of the Pacific, our journey now turns inland, to the highlands of South America, where another enigma awaits. Here, in the Andean Plateau, stonework reaches astonishing precision, rivaling any megalithic site in the world. A civilization that carved monoliths weighing hundreds of tons and left questions no scholar has fully answered.
High in the Andean Plateau of Bolivia, overlooking the shimmering waters of Lake Titicaca, lies a site that defies explanation: Puma Punku, Door of the Puma in the Aymara language. Unlike the submerged city of Dwarka or the floating basalt labyrinth of Nanmadol, Puma Punku is inland, yet its mysteries are no less profound. Its massive stones, some weighing over 130 tons, are carved with precision so exact that even modern engineers struggle to replicate it. Here, in the ruins of Tiwanaku civilization, we encounter stonework that challenges assumptions about ancient technology, organization, and the very timeline of human civilization. Tiwanaku, the greater polity surrounding Puma Punku, flourished between CE 500 and 1000 CE, though some dating suggests human activity at the site as early as 1500 BCE. German archaeologist Arthur Poznansky, who began extensive studies in the 1920s, proposed that Puma Punku predates the Inca by more than a millennium, and possibly even aligns with a lost epoch of Andean culture. The Tiwanaku people were skilled agriculturalists, engineers, and architects. They transformed high-altitude wetlands into raised field systems, allowing dense populations to thrive in otherwise harsh conditions. Puma Punku stands as their ceremonial and political heart, a site of power, spirituality, and technical ingenuity. Puma Punku is famous for its megalithic stone blocks, many of them precisely cut to interlock without mortar. Some remarkable details. H-shaped blocks used as connectors, allowing stones to fit together like modern Lego pieces. T-shaped monoliths reminiscent of Göbekli Tepe, though carved much later, suggesting a symbolic or functional link across continents. Smooth, perpendicular cuts on blocks weighing over 100 tons, carved with such precision that even today some cuts appear to be made with metal saws or advanced tools. Archaeologists estimate that millions of tons of stone were quarried and transported from nearby sites, including the Kuchuni Quarry, nearly 10 kilometers away over difficult mountainous terrain. No definitive evidence of advanced metal tools has been found that could account for Puma Punku's precision. Archaeologists Jean-Pierre Protzen, University of California, Berkeley, 1993, and Alan Colata, University of Chicago, 1993, studied the blocks and concluded, quote, "The craftsmanship is extraordinary. The precision is beyond what we would expect for a culture that, as far as the record shows, had only Bronze Age technology." End quote. Experimental reconstructions using stone, wood, and copper chisels show that shaping even a single block could take months. Multiply that by hundreds of massive stones, and it becomes clear that Puma Punku required not just labor, but a highly organized society with long-term vision and engineering knowledge. Puma Punku, like Tiwanaku's larger complex, is aligned with astronomical events. Studies by Avini, 1981, Skywatchers of Ancient Peru, indicate that the site aligns with solstices and equinoxes, suggesting that the Tiwanaku were astronomers as well as engineers. Some stone carvings may encode celestial constellations, water cycles, and seasonal agricultural calendars. This precision indicates a sophisticated understanding of geometry and observation. By the 11th century CE, Tiwanaku society declined, likely due to climatic shifts, including prolonged droughts affecting agriculture. Pumapunku itself was largely demolished, blocks toppled, structures dismantled, possibly as part of internal upheaval or ritual deconstruction. European explorers in the 16th century reported local legends of enormous stones moved by giant spirits or supernatural beings, testimony to the awe the site inspired even in oral tradition. Modern archaeological studies began in earnest in the late 20th century, with teams from Bolivia, Germany, and the United States employing 3D laser scanning to map block positions, petrographic analysis to determine stone origin, radiocarbon dating of charcoal layers between the stones, yielding dates consistent with CE 500 to 600 CE. Dr. Dirk van der Meer, 2010, notes that the construction techniques suggest modular planning, implying a central blueprint and precise measurements. Some researchers propose the blocks were carved in quarries, transported via stone rollers and inclined planes, then assembled like a giant jigsaw puzzle. Yet skepticism remains. Moving stones weighing over 100 tons without advanced machinery is a feat difficult to replicate today. Pumapunku echoes a pattern seen at Göbekli Tepe, Dwarka, and Nanmadal. Monumental stone construction, sophisticated planning and labor organization, alignment with celestial or environmental phenomena. While separated by thousands of kilometers and centuries, these sites suggest that humans, across different cultures, repeatedly developed extraordinary technical and architectural abilities far earlier than mainstream history credits. Some theorists, including Graham Hancock, 2015, Magicians of the Gods, argue that Pumapunku may preserve knowledge inherited from a prior, advanced, and now lost civilization. Mainstream archaeologists caution against speculation, but acknowledge the site's exceptional nature. Standing amid the fallen blocks, one cannot help but marvel. Stones weighing 80 to 130 tons, precision cuts, angles, and interlocking shapes, modular designs spanning hundreds of meters. The people of Tiwanaku built with purpose, skill, and vision, yet left no written explanation. Pumapunku communicates only through stone, geometry, and alignment, challenging us to imagine their intentions and capabilities. Pumapunku demonstrates 1. Engineering mastery predates industrial technology. 2. Social organization was sufficient to mobilize and sustain massive labor forces. 3. Astronomy and architecture were intimately connected, guiding religious, ceremonial, and agricultural life. It is a testament to the ingenuity of human societies, proof that complex civilizations arose independently across the globe, adapting to diverse environments and challenges. From the high Andes, our journey moves into the heart of Africa, to a land of pyramids and stone cities that predate Egypt's dynasties. Civilizations that emerged independently, built monuments of stone and sand, and vanished into the shadows of history. South of the Nile's Great Delta, beyond the well-trodden sands of ancient Egypt, lies a land of forgotten kingdoms, Nubia. For millennia, Nubia was home to civilizations as old, as complex, and as mysterious as its northern neighbor. Yet its temples, pyramids, and cities remain largely unknown to the modern world. Here, monumental architecture and sacred sites testify to a people who mastered stone, water, and faith long before the rise of pharaohs. Nubia stretches along the Nile from Aswan in Egypt to Khartoum in Sudan, encompassing regions inhabited by the Kerma, Napatan, and Meroic cultures. The earliest organized settlement, Kerma, emerged around 2500 BCE, contemporaneous with Egypt's Old Kingdom. Archaeological evidence from Kerma, excavated by Charles Bonnet, 1970s-1980s, reveals complex urban planning, including mud brick houses, granaries, and early religious structures. Temples dedicated to deities such as Epidemic, the lion-headed warrior god, and Amun, reveal a sophisticated pantheon. Later kingdoms, including Napata, c. 900 to 300 BCE, and Meroe, c. 300 BCE to 350 CE, continued monumental building traditions, constructing pyramids with steep angles, temples, and ceremonial plazas. Historically, Nubia was both a trading partner and a rival of Egypt. Egyptian pharaohs coveted Nubian gold, ivory, and cattle, while Nubians sometimes dominated southern Egypt. Archaeological surveys, such as those by George Reisner, 1920s, and Dowes Dunham, 1930s-1940s, documented pyramid fields at Meroe and Nuri, revealing over 200 pyramids, some containing elaborate burial chambers, gold jewelry, and inscriptions in Meroic script. Unlike Egyptian pyramids, Nubian pyramids are smaller, steeper, and often built in clusters, indicating different ceremonial or religious priorities. The Temple of Amun at Jebel Barkal, excavated by George Reisner and later by the University of Khartoum, illustrates Nubia's mastery of monumental stonework. Massive sandstone blocks carved with reliefs of kings, gods, and ceremonial scenes. Columns with lotus and papyrus motifs similar to Egypt, yet adapted to local aesthetics. Ceremonial avenues, often lined with sphinxes and stelae, demonstrating urban planning and ritual design. Carbon dating of organic materials at Jebel Barkal places a temple's construction around 750 BCE, though earlier structures underlie the current edifice, suggesting continuous occupation for over a millennium. The Meroic pyramids at Nuri and Meroe also featured temple chapels, blending religious function with funerary architecture, an early example of integrated sacred city planning. Many Nubian cities lie buried beneath desert sands or submerged by the waters of Lake Nasser, created during the construction of the Aswan High Dam, 1960s. The UNESCO-led international campaign to save the monuments of Nubia, 1960 to 1980, documented and relocated dozens of temples, including Abu Simbel, but countless others remain inaccessible, including ruins of Kerma's sacred precincts and Meroic urban complexes. Excavations at Kerma, conducted by Swiss archaeologist Charles Bonnet, 1970s-2000s, revealed monumental Defufa temples, massive mud brick platforms used for ceremonial and possibly astronomical purposes, dating to c. 2500 to 1500 BCE. These structures suggest that, like Göbekli Tepe, Nubians developed complex religious and civic architecture before or parallel to early Egyptian monumentalism. Nubians demonstrated remarkable skill in stonemasonry. Large sandstone blocks transported from quarries using rollers and sledges. Reliefs carved with precision, often depicting battle, ritual, or divine scenes. Pyramids built with careful alignment and orientation to celestial events, particularly the rising of Sirius. The Defufa temples at Kerma, built over 4,000 years ago, required coordinated labor, knowledge of material properties, and ceremonial engineering, a feat comparable to contemporaneous Mesopotamian and Egyptian constructions. Nubian temples and pyramids were not mere monuments. They were centers of cosmic and political power. Kings were both temporal rulers and divine intermediaries. Temples function as astronomical observatories, ceremonial centers, and repositories of art and knowledge. Ceremonial plazas allowed large gatherings, connecting communities with the sacred landscape. The interweaving of faith, governance, and architecture mirrors patterns seen at Göbekli Tepe, Dwarka, Nan Madol, and Pumapunku. Societies using monumental construction to codify social, religious, and cosmic order. By 350 CE, the Meroic civilization declined, likely due to environmental changes, including desertification and Nile flooding variations.
Political pressures, such as invasions from Axum and later Arab forces. Internal social upheaval leading to decentralized control. The temples and pyramids fell into disuse, and many were buried under sand or abandoned entirely. Unlike Egypt, Nubia's monuments were not preserved in global consciousness, leading to their near total disappearance until modern archaeology revealed them. In the 20th century, European and Sudanese archaeologists, including George Reisner, Dowse Dunham, and Charles Bonnet, excavated key sites, documenting architecture, inscriptions, and artifacts. Findings included ceramic vessels, jewelry, bronze tools, and stelae. Carbon dating confirmed chronological placement. Kerma, 2500 to 1500 BCE. Napata, 900 to 300 BCE. Meroe, 300 to 350 CE. Remote sensing and satellite imagery in the 21st century revealed additional buried temple complexes and urban grids, hinting at lost networks across the Nile Valley. Despite these advances, much of Nubia remains unexcavated, buried beneath sand and modern settlements, preserving secrets older than written history in Egypt itself. Nubia reminds us that civilization is not a single linear story. Monumental architecture arose independently in multiple regions. Societies adapted to their environment, integrating engineering, religion, and governance. Even when overshadowed by neighbors like Egypt, Nubian kingdoms developed unique cultural identities, leaving a legacy of stone, faith, and innovation. The temples, pyramids, and sacred precincts of Nubia are more than archaeological sites. They are echoes of human ingenuity, whispers from civilizations that shaped history quietly, yet profoundly. From Turkey to India, the Pacific Islands to the Andes, and the deserts of Nubia, we have traced a single thread: humanity's desire to build, to honor, to leave a mark that transcends time. These vanished temples, cities, and monuments challenge our assumptions, proving that civilizations capable of remarkable engineering, astronomy, and social organization existed long before we imagined.
Across time and geography, from the high deserts of Anatolia to India's sunken coasts, from the coral-laden Pacific to the windswept Andes and the sands of Nubia, humanity has left traces of remarkable ingenuity. Civilizations rose, built monumental cities, mastered stone, wood, and metal, organized labor at vast scales, and integrated religion, astronomy, and governance, only to vanish, leaving fragments, myths, and whispers beneath sand, water, and foliage. What binds these stories together is more than coincidence. It is a pattern, a thread running through the tapestry of human history. Göbekli Tepe, c. 9600 to BCE, the first monumental stone temples erected by hunter-gatherers, rewriting our understanding of pre-agricultural societies. Dwarka, c. 5200 to 1500 BCE, a city swallowed by the Arabian Sea, blending myth, memory, and possible archaeological reality. Nanmadol, c. 1200 to 1600 CE, a floating city of basalt in the Pacific, demonstrating mastery of maritime engineering in isolation. Bumapunku, c. 500 to 600 CE, Andean precision cut megalith, revealing engineering sophistication and astronomical alignment. Nubia, c. 2500 BCE to 350 CE, temples, pyramids, and cities that rivaled Egypt, emphasizing ritual, governance, and adaptation to extreme environments. Each site demonstrates human innovation beyond what traditional timelines often allow. Each challenges the notion that complex engineering, social hierarchy, and monumental construction required dense river valleys or written records. When viewed together, these vanished temples reveal recurring themes. 1. Monumentality as power. Civilizations built not just to shelter or trade, but to encode social, religious, and political hierarchies in stone and urban planning. 2. Integration with environment. Coastal plains, islands, mountains, deserts, humans adapted their cities to the local geography, often turning obstacles into defining features. 3. Astronomical awareness. Alignments to solstices, stars, or seasonal events are present at Göbekli Tepe, Bumapunku, and Nubia, suggesting knowledge of celestial patterns guided ritual and construction. 4. Labor organization and vision. Massive projects required planning, coordination, and social cohesion, a testament to the human capacity for collective achievement. 5. Myth-preserving memory. Legends, oral traditions, and religious narratives often encode historical events, as with Dwarka's submerged or Nubia's lost kings, blurring the line between story and memory. The tools and methods of these civilizations remain partially mysterious. Göbekli Tepe, carvings and megalithic construction by hunter-gatherers without metal tools. Bumabunku, H-shaped and precisely cut stones without evidence of advanced metallurgy. Nan Madol, transportation of massive basalt blocks across coral lagoons without modern machinery. These feats imply not only technical skill, but innovative thinking, problem-solving, and perhaps knowledge passed through generations in ways modern archaeology struggles to reconstruct. Despite their ingenuity, each society faced impermanence. Rising seas engulfed Dwarka. Environmental change challenged Nan Madol and Nubia. Political collapse or ritual deconstruction altered Bumabunku. Göbekli Tepe's temples were deliberately buried. Monumentality does not guarantee longevity. Time, nature, and human decisions shape which civilizations endure in memory, which vanish, and which leaves tantalizing fragments for us to uncover. Lessons for humanity today. 1. Innovation is universal. Complex societies can emerge in surprising places under challenging conditions. 2. Cultural memory is vital. Oral traditions and myths often preserve kernels of historical truth. 3. Adaptation matters. Civilizations that thrived adapted architecture, agriculture, and social systems to environmental realities. 4. Curiosity is endless. Every discovery, Dwarka beneath the waves, Nan Madol on coral, Bumabunku in the Andes, remind us that history is far richer and stranger than we have ever begun to comprehend. Modern archaeology and technology, satellite imagery, 3D mapping, sonar, radiocarbon dating, allow us to connect to fragments left by these civilizations. Yet even with advanced tools, some questions remain. How were Bumabunku's stones cut with such precision? How did Nan Madol's builders move massive basalt across open lagoons? Were Dwarka's ruins truly submerged in the 6th millennium BCE, or does myth preserve something else? Perhaps the greatest lesson is humility. The past is far larger, more intricate, and more ambitious than we often realize. We are heirs to a story of creativity, vision, and impermanence, a story that stretches across continents and millennia. As we reflect on these vanished temples, one truth becomes clear. Humanity has always reached for the extraordinary. From monumental circles to sunken cities, from floating stone islands to highland megaliths, the drive to create, organize, and leave a mark transcends geography and error. And yet, these civilizations remind us our works are fragile, susceptible to the forces of nature, political upheaval, and time itself. The ruins we uncover are both inspiration and warning, a mirror reflecting the power of human ambition and the impermanence that shadows it. We began our journey at Göbekli Tepe, the first monumental stone circle, and traced the vanishing footprints of human civilization across the world. From the depths of the Arabian Sea to the coral lagoons of Micronesia, the Andes highlands, and the sands of Nubia, the story is the same. Humans create, adapt, innovate, and yet vanish. The temples, the pyramids, the cities, they are the memory of human potential, carved in stone, submerged in water, hidden in sand. They challenge us to imagine, to explore, and to remember that the story of civilization is far older and far stranger than we have ever begun to comprehend. Civilizations may vanish, but their dreams endure. Their temples whisper across time. Their cities echo in the waves and mountains. And for those who listen carefully, history speaks. We built, we dreamed, we vanished, and yet we remain in memory, in stone, and in the endless curiosity of humankind.